So welcome everybody. This session will be the most talking session, and then we're going to go more and more into retreat format. And we're not in silence yet, so there'll be a little bit of time for questions tonight still. But we will go into silence after the final kind of housekeeping things from Shuki at the end of tonight. So I thought to start with why we do silence and how to do silence, because it might not be something that everyone's clear about what the benefit is, what's the point. So first, before we start, is everyone comfy? Do you need to jump sides or spread out? There's some sort of bad vibe here. I know what's happening. No one wants to sit there. I don't know what's happened there, but anyway. Yeah. So if you're new to retreat, don't feel locked in to where you're sitting. Yeah, so some of you haven't done retreat before, and where you're sitting, you're like, oh God, this is going to be the whole weekend here. This isn't quite right. Go ahead and, at some point decide, but, especially tonight, experiment with a few different locations and, don't feel trapped where you are. And also don't feel trapped in your cushion choice. Yeah, really, everyone takes ages to figure out what is the right way for them personally to sit in a way that's stable and doesn't make their legs fall asleep, that doesn't make their knees hurt. Some people need like a whole tower and become a bit of a wedge, and some people are straight flat on the ground. So, you can't really tell what's going to work for you just by checking out other people. So please play around with it, because all of us have a way that we can sit in that's stable and comfortable. If you're in a chair, try not to rely on the back of the chair during the meditation. While I'm talking, chill, it's fine. But in the meditation itself, if you rely on the back of the chair, and those of you against the wall, if you rely on the wall too much, it can be an obstacle to concentration because the spine will crumple a little bit. And the less straight your back is, the less easy it is to focus. Yeah, so it's not like a moral issue, right? It's like a practical issue. What's going to help you stay stable and straight up and down will help you focus better. And as soon as you tilt, and as soon as you lean, and as soon as you crumple, focus goes out the window. Yeah, so if you're thinking, what's wrong with me? I can't focus, just try sitting up straight. Okay, so just some basic stuff. And if you've been meditating for 30 years and have been uncomfortable for 30 years, perhaps try another way of sitting. Now's your chance, right? No one will know. So really, this is going to be a very mixed group. I have a feeling some of you have never done retreat before, and some of you have been retreating for many, many years. And to be honest, the older students are probably going to be the naughtiest, and the newer students are probably going to be the best behaved. So those of you that are older students, remember what it was like to be new in the Dharma and open-minded and fresh and ready for some discipline. Yeah, and the cool things you touched when you were in that open space. It's so tricky for us to go back there if we get used to things. But remember how very profound it was when you were in that open state of mind. And see if you can get yourself back there. And if you can't, don't ruin it for everyone else, right? So, cell phone note. All right, so more than half the group has spent more than half their life without a cell phone. Just want to remind us of that, right? That we totally existed perfectly fine without them. Do you remember? Right? It wasn't that long ago. We were fine. Please don't use them. Please don't use them. Please don't use them. Now, if you have family crises and workplace issues and stuff that you just cannot put to bed, then please don't bring your cell phone to the session. Don't let people see you using it, because it becomes tempting for them. So if you're thinking in your mind, there's no possible way I can not look at my cell phone, please at least do it away from other people so it doesn't kind of give them permission to break that discipline. Do you know what I mean, right? So stealth cell phone use. Yeah, just like quietly in your room, don't let people see you using it. If you have to take a phone call, take it far away. There's a whole forest just out there. So like go into the forest and have your phone call if you have to. Yeah.
I made a suggestion that if somebody absolutely positively must use the phone, they do it over there outside the boundary of the retreat, which includes the gompa, where we stay, the rooms, and the dining room.
You've established a perimeter.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Yeah.
So that's
excellent. And the reason for this, it's not like some naughty kids aren't allowed to play with your cell phones. I'm trying to be a school marm or like a drill sergeant. It's not that. It's that we're trying to create a sacred space. Yeah, we're trying to create a sacred space. And part of creating sacred space is doing something different than your normal life. So doing something different makes your mind decide something different is happening. I could learn something. You know, it creates an openness when you kind of shift into a new mode of being. So the silence also encourages that when you're in a silent mode, it's actually a huge relief. Yeah, it's just so much pressure of social interaction is gone if you don't have to talk. Yeah, and that doesn't mean you can't make eye contact with people. We're not doing a strict Vipassana style, eyes to the ground, no facial expression, silence. We're going to do, kind of a gentle silence. So you can still look at each other, you can still smile at each other. If you bump into each other, you could whisper, "Excuse me." But just, it's like take the pressure off of that level of coarseness in your human interactions. And if you're desperate to talk to each other, there will be time, on Saturday and like the rest of your life. Yeah. So we're trying to create this really conducive environment to going deeply with the practice. And, if people get fed up with the practice not having a deep impact, sometimes it's as simple as the conditions aren't supporting it. So if you want to be able to touch these things deeply, make it easy for yourself, by just quiet. Just you're quieting the speech and you're quieting the movements of your body, and slowly that helps quiet your mind to touch something more subtle than what you've touched before. So it's not about being a good kid or a bad kid or, holy or something. It's useful to be silent. And there will also be time to ask questions once or twice a day. So it's not like you have to be all kind of, stuffed with you're not able to ask questions. You'll still be able to do questions once or twice a day, and I'll open it out. Also, not being able to talk right after something happens empowers you to figure stuff out for yourself. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like, so if if something's happened in your meditation, or something's happened in the reading material and you're confused about it, if you don't let yourself talk about it right away, sometimes you can touch this really beautiful wisdom of your own and work it out. And that's actually much more empowering for your practice if you've solved it yourself. If you just sat with the question, why am I confused? Or why does this disturb my mind? If you just play with it in the quiet space, the wisdom you come to can sometimes be richer. So have an experimental attitude towards the silence. Like be kind of curious. What happens if for once in my life I shut up? Let's just see what happens. Be kind of curious about it. And there will no doubt be a couple people that this is so confronting for that they're going to crack. All right, and they're going to spill out, and they're going to say, "Hey, how was that?" And they're going to want to talk and compare notes. And remember, we are trying to be compassionate, so don't be like, shh. Don't get all judgy. Yes? So if you notice people misbehaving, your practice is also to meet that with some compassion and some understanding, right? So if you notice people being naughty, don't tell on the teacher, right? Just don't feed the beast and don't become like that. Hold your own practice steady, and gently disengage with huge amounts of kindness, knowing that in any retreat, we all take turns being the annoying one, right? Yeah, including myself, right? In a retreat, things become much more sensitive and people annoy us right? They will totally annoy us. And sometimes they are genuinely being badly behaved. And sometimes it's just that we're getting more and more sensitive to things, which means we can get more reactive. So have that kindness with yourself as well, that you're doing something different. And so your mind's not sure what to make of it all. Yeah? Your mind's going to be a little bit like, whoa, I'm experiencing strange bodily sensations, or I'm having thoughts I haven't had for years, or, just weird stuff can happen. And so meet yourself with a lot of kindness, meet each other with a lot of kindness, knowing that everyone is going to be going through their own process. And sometimes it will be enriching and inspiring and so exciting, and they'll be sort of uplifted and really high and happy, and the person right next to them is going into like their deepest depression and having an existential crisis, and you can't tell which is which watching, just seeing them sit there. And so really you keep coming back to, whatever I meet, may I meet it with kindness and compassion, whether it's internally or externally. Yeah, so that's the kind of atmosphere we want to create in this retreat that has that discipline that's not, it's not a mean authoritarian discipline. It's like a structure to hold us, like a mother's arm. Yeah, and the mother's arms hold you until you're strong enough not to need them. And then even after that, you still like them sometimes, right? And so treat the retreat structure and restrictions and rules like a mother's arms holding you while you get strong enough to build this new skill. And then eventually it won't matter what environment you're in, you'll be able to touch these things. So that's the point of these structures. It's not some sort of punishment or like to ruin your fun, right? It's to actually make it easier for your mind to drop into something more subtle and profound. So are there any questions about the silence, or any worries, or those of you that have done retreat before, cool things that have happened because of silence that you want to share? Because we're not in silence yet.
Some technical questions.
Sure.
About air condition. What's going to happen? It's going to be cold, hot. Who's going to be?
Who's in charge of air conditioning? Put your hand up. Shuki's in charge.
How to manage it without, like.
If you're suffering, pass him a note. Yeah, or sort of point and go. Yeah, right. Give him a sad face and point. Yeah. And you know that, someone's going to be too hot and someone's going to be too cold, and you might be the suffering one, and do your best to manage your own stuff too, yeah. Yeah, I see you all gorgeously rugged up with all of your cozy blankets, and I am boiling, right? And we're like just, right, so it's karma too. Karma, right? So yeah, so do your best.
Recited the Heart Sutra, which is talking about emptiness. So there is no temperature for the air conditioner. There is a temperature here.
From its own side, no.
From its own side.
Well said.
Very well.
Well said, son of the lineage.
No, but this era, all of the era, all of us are weak cold.
Yeah, and make sure you bring. Yeah, adjust your spot too, right? So see where the vents go and play around tonight with your good spot. Yeah. So find your ideal position. Be organized. You guys are all grown-ups, so if you get too cold, bring blankies. And if you get too hot, wear layers, right? Like you're grown-ups, And if you're really struggling, let Shuki know. But really know that also part of retreat is fixating on the external. And definitely there will be a couple people that will obsess about the food. Definitely there will be a couple of people that obsess about some people's body noises, right? Like you breathe too loud, right? There would be totally that person. It'd probably be me. Stop breathing. No, I'm kidding. We get reactive when the mind settles down because it's confronting to see ourselves. And so if you notice yourself getting more judgmental than usual rather than less, that's really normal. It's a really normal part of retreat, and it's a sign that you are moving through a process. So again, be nice to yourself. But that delicate balance of I need to be assertive and declare a real human need I have because I'm freezing to death, and I'm fixating on something external because I feel confronted. And only you will know which one it is. Yeah? Only you will know if you're having a genuine human need or if you're fixating on something because you're feeling confronted. So, just be really self-honest. All right. Yeah. So logistics go to Por Shukyi and Tal, and they are our bodhisattvas of the retreat. That's the logistical answer. And we thank them from the bottom of our hearts. Yes.
From time to time, I'm writing a note or a thought.
Yep.
And I'm doing it from here, otherwise it goes lost. But it doesn't make any sound. I'm just writing a note. If I will write it on a paper, it will get lost. Sure.
Will you promise that your phone is in airplane mode?
Yeah.
Is anyone else going to freak out if they see her on her phone?
I will sit here and just write a note.
All right.
Love it. We're going to love it.
You're going to love it. Excellent. Okay. Yes. Okay. It's tricky, right? Like, it is really tricky. But I would also say, if you can not take notes during the meditation session, just be with it, because it is recorded too. So if there was something that was important to come back to, it's recorded.
Sometimes I'm writing something that happens to me and I want to remember it.
Yeah. And you can, but sometimes the very sight of the object triggers the old state of mind. So my preference would be that you found paper and pencil, even though that's not your favorite. Just think of it a little bit like an alcoholic shouldn't be in a bar, even though it's not the bar's fault. You know what I mean? Right? And we're a little bit like alcoholics with our phones. So sometimes even just seeing it, you're like, oh my God, what's on Facebook? Scroll. Happiness, where's the happiness? I've seen y'all, right? I've seen myself. And so, don't go in the bar. Right? We're still alcoholics. It's tricky. It is. It's really tricky because you make a totally logical point, and yet I've seen the impact of just one person whipping out their phone. Yeah, it sort of gives permission to everyone else, and then it's a slippery slope, and people just start texting. You're like, oh my God, guess what just happened in this retreat session? No, I know you won't.
I will not write the thoughts, but
yeah.
I was honestly planning just to write a note.
I believe you, 100% I believe you. You're a good woman, but I think it will give permission to someone else who maybe not. This is my worry, right? My worry is not about you. It's opening the door. Yeah, it's tricky. So it's just, also in retreat, sometimes experiences move through and they were profound, but we don't want to also grasp at them, and it's an interesting thing that happens in retreat where you will sometimes have old karmic seeds ripen for a meditation session far more profound than what you normally get done at home. And then you get so excited and locked in and want it to happen again, and then you're disappointed when it can't, and you go home and try and remanufacture it. And we have to remember that our approach to the retreat is as important as the retreat. Yeah? Our approach to the material is as important as the material. Do you know what I mean when I say that, right? So your attitude towards the retreat is as important as the retreat. Your attitude towards the retreat is the retreat. Yeah? How do you meet yourself with a good session where all sorts of amazing things happen? How do you meet yourself at a, quote, bad session where you can't focus at all and everyone is annoying you? That is the retreat. You're retreating from negative states of mind. So, whatever that looks like. And, it's very personal experience, but to try and not grasp at experiences that happen to us during the retreat, it's just passing phenomena. And you develop more and more consistency in your practice over time. Yeah. So, anyway, use your common sense. Yeah, any other questions or comments about the silence especially? Is anybody worried or freaked out or anything? Yes? Yeah, Noah, well done. Bravely owning it. I appreciate that. It is, it's a little confronting, right? Because we process things verbally a lot, right? And this country beautifully processes things verbally, right? You should see New Zealand. I'm like, what do you guys think? And they're like, Yeah, and it's so cute, and he'll be like, well, I'll tell you. Yeah. And it's so lovely the way things are so communal and so hospitable here, and there's just such a warmth in communities here that I love so much, and a friendliness that I love so much about this culture. And so I sort of trust you to bond at other times, because I know you can do it, right? Like I've seen you do it. I know that you can bond. I have no worries about that. And so if you sort of notice yourself, oh my God, I'm freaking out, I need to talk to someone or I'm going to go crazy. If it gets to crazy town, it's okay to crack and go off and have a phone call with someone. Yeah, if you're about to pop. But if it's just discomfort, that's a good thing to explore. If it's just, oh, I'm feeling a little uneasy not being able to talk. Oh, I'm feeling a little something. That's a really excellent thing to touch. But if it's getting to the point where you're starting to get weird or paranoid, if you have some like quiet mental health issues that are relatively manageable, but now they're all kind of roaring to the surface, of course, look after yourself and, break the retreat boundary and ring somebody, please, please. Yeah, so, yes, we all have hidden demons that may arise. Yeah, so please look after yourself if big stuff comes up. And every once in a while in a retreat like this, very big stuff comes up. And if you want to talk to me, just leave Shuki a note or leave a note here on my desk and a way to get a hold of you, like your room number. But that's really only in case of emergencies, in case of big existential crisis. If it's just interesting retreat stuff, we can totally talk about it some other time, not during the retreat. Yeah, and you know that you can make an appointment and hang out and we can talk about your practice anytime, right, until I leave in July. But if it's an emergency, please tell me, because I want to make sure I look after you guys. And some of the senior students, if you feel willing to look after people, you can leave me a note as well and say, I'm here if people fall apart. So some of you older students, if that feels comfortable, you can leave me a note saying that. Yeah, anybody who's done silence have any comments about it? How have you found it in the past, old silencers?
I think it's wonderful.
Thanks.
I did the Vipassana, Goenka's Vipassana, so it looks like summer camp.
Yeah, right, it's much easier than a Vipassana. Yeah, this is Vipassana
But
light.
it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's worth a try. So keep it just kind of experimental and light, and I wonder what happens if, just keep it kind of on that level. All right, how are we doing for time? So now I'll just sort of introduce the meditations that we're going to do, just the basic layout so that you feel kind of comfortable with what's going to happen. In between sessions is really excellent if you can read the material that was emailed to you or go for a walk. Yeah, go for a slow walk and just let things digest. So again, kind of be by yourself if you can. Be by yourself. And there's some beautiful places to walk around here, really lovely. If you just keep going up this road, you'll hit the forest. And there's lovely gardens everywhere. So have a walk and give yourself space to digest or read a commentary like the ones I've given you. This, the teaching that we're mainly drawing from, we're doing the 4 close placements of mindfulness, and mainly I'm drawing from the Satipatthana Sutra, which is included in your course material, just straight from the Buddha. The sutra itself is in there at the back. Some of it's quite full on, right? There's bits that will make sense right away, no problem, and bits that you'll be like, what? Oh, Buddhists, heavens. Just kind of know that it needs a bit of commentary for all of it to become clear. Let's see. There's 2 commentaries that I really like for the 4 close placements, so I'll just tell you about them right now. The very scholarly, technical, very specific one that I like is just called Satipatthana, The Direct Path to Realization by Venerable Alalayo, and so it's got the Buddha here. And I'll leave it on my desk in case you want to peek at it. And then there's a very beautiful, gentle one that explains things in very everyday language with some lovely exercises by Thich Nhat Hanh called Transformation and Healing. So depending on what mood you're in, there's the super scholar and the nice and gentle. Both of them are very deep, but different approaches. So transformation and healing sounds like it's about, some self-development workshop, some new agey thing, but it's actually about the 4 closed placements. So this one by Thich Nhat Hanh is beautiful. So I'll just leave them there in case you want to peek at them. And what was emailed to you is really just read at least the first 3 or 4 pages because it will help. If you don't want to read the whole thing, don't worry about it. But the first few pages will kind of orient you. And I know that English is not your first language, and so reading stuff in another language is sometimes annoying. So don't feel like you have to read it all, but that first bit. Yeah. Okay, so the objects that we're going to meditate on are the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. Okay, those are our meditation objects. And these 4 objects can be meditated on in a concentration way or in an analytical way. And we'll be doing both. But just to know, these are objects you can use in really flexible ways. So we're going to use them as objects to develop single-pointed concentration, shamatha, to help the mind get stable and calm and clear and access a deeper level of our experience. Then we're going to meditate on the same exact object from the perspective of analysis and from the perspective of observation in order to start to touch ultimate truth, the lack of inherent existence. And so the single-pointed concentration version, this is for developing shamatha, and the analytical side is for developing vipassana. And because we are in the Mahayana tradition, even though this is a common practice to every single type of Buddhism, we're going to try and make sure we always do it with a Mahayana motivation, meaning for the sake of all sentient beings, in order to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Yeah, so we're going to do it with that motivation, but know that this is a common practice that you will find in all forms of Buddhism. So those are the 4 objects, and you can do them in one of 2 ways. And the reason that we use them is to understand the 4 seals. All right, so we're trying to understand that all impermanent things change. All compounded phenomena are impermanent, right? So who cares? Why is that important? Why is it important to know that things that are produced cease? Yeah, why do we meditate on impermanence? In particular, the impermanence of bits of us. Just, intuitively, why do you reckon?
To not fixate.
To not fixate? Yeah? Yeah.
Death.
Attachment, yeah, exactly. Death, very good, yes. Everyone's on the right page. Well done. Yep, others? Many reasons. Do you suffer when you forget impermanence? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I know it's obvious, but we have to kind of remind ourselves, why are we doing these meditations? This isn't, just sort of an entertainment thing we're doing. We have to kind of get ourselves, oh, right, I'm doing this for a purpose that will have a direct impact on my everyday life, as well as develop my spiritual path in an ongoing way, right? This has an immediate everyday impact and a long-term deep spiritual impact, And you would, of course, know that before you even sign up for a course, otherwise why would you do it, right? But you want to kind of revive your reasons right from the start so that you have strong energy to really go for it. Okay, so you meditate on impermanence of the body, right, of feelings, of mind, of phenomena, to unhook yourself from attachment, to remember death, right, to not fixate on the troubles and the pleasures of this moment because you know they're going to change, yeah? Your best moment on earth, right, your best day, yeah? If you think of your best day or your best moment, if you knew exactly how long it was going to last, you would just enjoy it thoroughly, and when it finished, you wouldn't be disappointed because you knew it was going to end. Yeah? But when we're having our happiest moments, there's that part of us that clings to, may it last longer, may it go deeper, may it be richer, may it repeat, and comparing it to other good moments. right? All sorts of things are happening even when you're enjoying yourself. But think of the way your mind is so happy, for example, when you're traveling. When you're traveling, you're sometimes only going to be in one place for a day or two. And the people that you meet, you're only going to see once or twice. And so you just really enjoy them, but it's with this looseness and this flexibility, as opposed to, right, the people you see all the time, right, which you can sort of take for granted, yeah? And, you don't necessarily enjoy them as much. Even the people you kind of are, quote, closer to, you might not have as much immediate enjoyment of them as you do with these random strangers while you're traveling. You know what I mean, right? So when you're in the mood that remembers impermanence, life is richer. And on the other hand, when you're struggling, it feels like it's going to last forever, right? When you're really sick, when you're really sad, when you're really worried, part of you forgets that it's temporary. Yeah? Even though logically you know better, there's this innate holding to it will always be like this. Yeah. So again, if you thought of your worst moments, how much was it compounded and made worse by the fact that you forgot it would end? Yeah, even your worst grief at its peak, it can't stay at that peak sharpness endlessly. It has many versions, it changes shape, it shifts in aspect. Yeah. Or something simple like a headache. Yeah? If you knew you would have it for exactly 5 minutes, you'd be like, all right, and just kind of wait it out. Yeah. But part of you adds to the suffering because you forget it's going to change. And so logically, we've thought about this perhaps. We've had classes about this. But in the meditation session, we're trying to touch it. We're trying to touch the reality experience of the moment-to-moment change, which makes it much less likely for us to get hooked in our daily life. So talking about it helps, but if you touch it in real time, it becomes really effective for interrupting that pattern we have. Yeah. So we're using the objects under the influence of looking for impermanence. Yeah. We'll also use these same objects looking for how, when there is attachment and anger and ignorance present, they are all suffering. Yeah. The body is suffering, feelings are suffering, the mind is suffering, phenomena are suffering when they're under the control of negative states of mind. Right? When they're under the control of karma. And so noticing that helps us not give food to the negative emotions. It helps us not feed them. And again, you knew this logically, intellectually already. But what you're trying to do is touch it in real time. Touch it in the moment of the lie, and then it falls apart. Yeah. And then you're going to be looking at the fact that these four objects also are empty of inherent existence and are not the self. Yeah, which is a bit profound. And some of you have had teachings on emptiness and some of you haven't. But I'm going to guide you through it and walk you through it in the simplest way and then slowly more and more deeply. So just treat it again as an interesting question to explore. So the idea that the body is not existing all by itself and is not you does a lot of things to your daily life. Now, thinking that feelings do not exist in and of themselves, all by themselves, and are not you, is even more profound, yeah? Because mostly, if you think me, you're identified very much with how you feel, yeah? And de-identifying from feelings frees up experience, yeah? Makes much more possible, makes you less dominated by them, yeah? Then mind, and you're like, what do you mean? Of course I'm the mind, at the very least. All right, I'm not the body. All right, I'm not my feelings. All right, I know. I'm a Buddhist. I know. Yeah. And then you think, but surely I'm the mind. Oh, right? And then what about what happens in the mind? What about phenomena? Oh, so it gets more and more subtle. And so it's a really interesting exploration to go through. And so when you use these four objects and you look at them from these different perspectives, you come to understand the Four Noble Truths, right? So you come to understand the truth of suffering, you come to understand the truth of the origin of suffering, and decide, yeah, I want to abandon those. Enough. It helps you develop renunciation, the determination to be free from samsara. Yeah. And by meditating on these four, coming to see the reality of them, you also come to understand the second two noble truths, the truth of path and the truth of cessation, and decide, I want that. So by using these four objects, under the influence of looking for the four seals, you come to understand the Four Noble Truths. Yeah. And so that is why we do this, right? And some of you already know this, and some of you don't, but again and again, we have to remind ourselves of what we already know to give us energy to try. Yeah. So, questions so far? That was just kind of a quick overview, and then we're going to very slowly work our way through them. Did I lose anyone?
You said four objects. Body, speech, mind, and?
No. Body, feeling, mind, phenomena. Yeah, phenomena.
Can you repeat again the Four Noble Truths?
Suffering, truth of suffering, truth of origin, truth of cessation, true path. Yeah. Four seals, anyone? All phenomena are impermanent. Yeah. All compounded phenomena are impermanent. Yeah. All everything under the influence of karma and disturbing emotions is in the nature of suffering. Right? All phenomena are empty and selfless. Nirvana is peace. Yeah. So 3 sets of 4. But know that these 3 sets of 4 are not one of the random lists that doesn't ever come up again. These 3 are actually, you will see them again and again in many different forms throughout Buddhism. So if there's any lists to memorize, these would be your guys. Yeah. You think, I'm not memorizing the 51 mental factors. Damn it, I don't have room in my head for that. Okay. But these guys are important. Yeah. And again, you don't have to memorize them now. I'm going to walk you through them. By the end of the retreat, you might just naturally remember them. Yeah, just because we've slowly worked our way through it. And again, they're in your reading material as well. Yeah. All right, so we're going to start with close placement on body. And there are many different meditations to do with close placement on the body. We're going to start with the one probably everybody knows, which is meditation on the breath. Okay, so we're going to start nice and easy with our old friend. Okay, and before we get into meditation on the breath, I'm going to work you through body exercise and body relaxation exercise just to get us really anchored in the room. So this is the preliminary, won't be strictly from the Buddhist tradition, but then we'll go into the very classic meditation on the breath after that. Okay, so it helps us to get grounded in our space. So yes, please, everybody shift who needs to shift. Everyone add clothes or subtract clothes.